Uh,
So, hi everybody. Here is Georgie, most commonly known for not being known. He is 17 years old and he has accomplished nothing out of the ordinary. This one was written by Georgie, as you can see. But he is
yeah,
kind of funny and makes a good effort of being nice, and he has a lot, and I mean a lot, to say today. So, welcome, Georgie. How are you today?
yay! I'm really good. Thank you. I hope everyone is doing fine. Hopefully they are. If they aren't like my bad, but okay. So what I wanted to talk about today is something that my teacher told me I could talk about because like I have a tendency to tell people what is not okay to do right now in this political and social climate. So my teacher told me, well, you should do that. Like you're kind of good at it. And so I said, maybe I will. And so here we are. I decided to name it How to Be Decent because it's just like respecting people and treating people like they're human beings is just being decent. And this is made by me. And the first question like that I have to share with everyone and to start my conversation is what is considered decent in the first place. So, what's decent? Decent, you could say, is just like being like, uh, it's not like being a nice person, but just being respectful. At least for me, and that's how I define it. It's just like being respectful and just like not undermining anyone, not doing something that would be considered rude or maybe mean or stuff like that. Just being respectful overall with everybody and just being nice. Yeah. So the next thing is an example in at least what I can talk about because of course I cannot talk about a lot of things because for example I am a white person, so I don't get to talk about racist stuff. And like, yeah, so I am just talking about what I know. And what I know is gender identity. What is it? How is it in this day, in this political climate? Well, a lot of people have different feelings about gender and how to express themselves and how do they think they are. And they want to be respected by other people. So a common thing that I've seen that I've heard about around is like how do you define yourself as a male or maybe a female or maybe as a non-binary person that is basically like just I'm not a man, I'm not a woman, I'm just a person. And what pronouns do you use? Like, do you use he, him pronouns, she, her pronouns, or they, them pronouns? That kind of stuff. So it's just how do you express your gender identity, basically. And a lot of people have a lot to say about it because it's complicated. I'm not going to go into whole debacle about what's gender identity. Is it valid? I'm not here to tell you that. I'm just here to telling you, like, if someone says to you, like, "Hey, I am a non-binary person," do you refer to me as a they/them person when you use my pronouns? You say, "Okay, thank you," and you use them, or you use he/him or she/her. It's just like that. Just if someone is asking you, for example, a trans person is telling you, my name is, let's say, Maria, and maybe you know that it's a trans person. You don't say, like, you're not a female, your name is not Maria. You say, okay, Maria, that's all. I'm not asking you to do a lot. I'm just asking you to respect what people tell you about themselves. It's just that. Do you get it, you guys? The second thing that I want to talk about is respecting different cultures and experiences of life. This one is more like generalized because there's a lot of different experiences of life and cultures overall. But I have seen sort of depthness with people, like they only know about their culture and they not like they actually mean it, but in their brains it's just like my culture is the most important and the one that deserves kind of more respect. And for example, if someone is telling you about their experience being, I don't know, a black person, you cannot invalidate that whole sentiment, and you cannot say like racism doesn't exist anymore, or maybe that doesn't happen here, because I've seen it a lot. For example, here in Mexico, that people say racism is not a thing in Mexico, and that's completely deaf to our culture, because racism and colorism is something very important in our society, and we have to acknowledge it in order to destroy it or deconstruct it. And you cannot tell a person who is telling you, I felt attacks on my persona for being uh, part of a certain race or culture. You say, okay, I may not have seen it or experienced it, but if you're telling me that's how you've been treated and that's how you have lived your life, then it is true and it is valid, and I have to respect it. Another important thing that I wanted to sort of cover, not really because I don't have the time or the energy to do it, is cultural appropriation. That's weird. We all know it. We might not understand it, but at least we have heard about it. What is it? Cultural appropriation is basically taking parts of the culture of other people and using them as part of your persona, even though you're not part of that culture. For example, one experience that I had in my life is someone, and I'm not going to say who, but is going to know who it is, asked me and a bunch of other people to dress ourselves as a cholo person. And I told them that's cultural appropriation. Why is that? When you take parts of the culture of somebody else, it's like you're only taking the good parts or the parts that you feel like you could make part of your life and part of your persona, but you're not actually experiencing the entire thing. You're just using that little thing, but you're not experiencing the other parts of that kind of life. And that's a bit weird. And yeah, so try not to do that with any culture. Just stick with your culture. If you want to learn about cultures or sort of do a mm, like you could say like represent that culture or make like a reverence to it, you could research how much you could do, what suits you as a non part of the group. That's what I mean by saying respect people, respect cultures, respect other experiences in general. Now, the most important question, should you always call for a debate or for someone to educate you, or that only makes you a very annoying person? And personally, I think you're actually being really annoying by asking other people to educate you or to call for a debate if you're not. It's weird. Let me explain this whole thing. Why do I mean it? Because a lot of people, when they sort of feel like someone is telling them, like, you cannot say it, you cannot say that stuff, you cannot act this way, a lot of people is going to ask you either to debate it and sort of like argue whether they're right or you're right, or they are going to ask you, well, educate me, tell me why I'm wrong and how can I do better. And what I personally think is like, if you want to learn and if you want to be proven either right or wrong, educate yourself and do the research yourself and do all that stuff in a place where you are not going to hurt anybody with your opinions, and you are going to absorb all that information to then replicate it in a safe space, and you're not going to actually hurt nobody's feelings. And just also just calling for a debate is kind of an arrogant thing to do, because it's like calling for a debate is sort of like you're saying like your opinion is correct. Sometimes, most of the times, it's not. So calling for a debate is kind of rude. So don't do it, you guys. Don't be annoying. If you feel like you need to argue about your opinion, either you're wrong or you're a very specific minority. So do your research by your own, then you go and talk to other people about it. That's the thing. Just try to take your opinion and change it if it is bad, but in a space where nobody's going to hear like that bad opinion that can maybe hurt somebody's feelings or hurt someone in general. All right. The next thing I want to talk about, what you could do, as I said, educate yourself. The most important thing you can do right now is just educate yourself, like watch, I don't know, whatever it says you most, watch videos or read articles, or just try to do your own research. And the best way you can do it is actually doing it yourself, because in that way you can learn the stuff in the pace you want it, and also as much as you can handle. Because a lot of the times the excuse of people is like, I'm very old and I cannot understand certain concepts of life. It's not, it's just I don't work that way anymore. I'm old and I need a lot of context and education and all of that. And just if you do your research by yourself, you can learn as much as you can and go little by little, or maybe go everything in one moment, but it's just you and you're not hurting anybody, and nobody's getting tired by explaining one thing once and twice and a lot of times. So just try to educate you, and when you have an opinion that you know that it's not popular or it's like harming for someone, you should keep it to yourself, because when an opinion is taking somebody's rights or invalidating somebody else's like entire life, you're doing a lot of damage, and that should be allowed. So if you know you have an opinion that is not right, you should keep it to yourself and try to educate you. But if you're not interested, just keep to yourself and everything will be fine. Just don't talk about it, or talk about it with people who you know they're going to have a pretty or an exact same opinion. You get it, guys? And the last thing I want to say about this is not hard, and because of that, you don't deserve an award. What do I mean by that? Being decent and being a nice human being is the bare minimum. Is like the least you can do for somebody else's life. So when you're asking to be rewarded or congratulated for being nice or for being respectful, is you don't deserve that whole applause and awarding or being praised for being a decent human being. Is the least you can do with people. So it doesn't make you a nice person. It doesn't make you anything other than a decent human being that is respectful and that is just trying to do their best with everyone else. Because I know it's complicated, but at least you're trying to be decent. And you can feel proud about it, but don't expect other people to be proud because it's nothing to be proud of. It's just like the bare minimum. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Maybe it's not a lot, maybe it's not that interesting, maybe it's weird and complicated to understand, but it's what I think, it's what I know about, it's what I have been told I'm good at. So that's all I have for you today, you guys. And done. That's all. Any questions, any commentaries, any whatever you want to do with me. Yeah.
Okay,
uh,
good. Yes? Do you want to say something else?
just like do questions if you have them, and do stuff if you have to say it to me to my face. And sorry for the quality of my video because it's really bad, but it's just my fault. So yeah,
Good, Georgie. Very good. So, yes, I want to say something. Like, I am the person who asked the students to dress as cholos. I
yeah.
don't want to say who is. And
I didn't want to call you out.
actually, we had this argument. It wasn't an argument. It was just
Yeah, I'm not
we
one
were
for
talking about that,
arguing.
and it's me who gave the idea to Georgie to talk about that, right? To talk about.
Yeah.
I think there is a generational gap right now. Um, like how many years older than you? 3?
Of course, teacher, you look like 21.
Do you really want to do you really want to do that math, Susie? Are you sure? What
In
are you
front of
saying?
everybody.
More or less 3. Okay, no, yes, so the generational gap is like sometimes I'm in this part of my life that I don't understand some stuff, some things of the new generations, right? So I told George that, like, you know what, it will be interesting for us to understand a little bit these new generations, right? Like with all these politically correct rules, it's difficult to know what is correct, what is not correct, what is. So that's why we decided about the name of the talk today. And well,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that. And yes, now if you have any questions, please for George, questions are allowed.
Yeah. Please don't make them complicated.
I have a
I
Yeah,
don't know.
question.
Yeah.
good
So
teacher.
I don't know if students they have, but I have one. Georgie, what advice would you give a teenager that is being judged by their parents, by his or her parents?
That's complicated. That's an experience very complicated.
It
But I mean, it's obviously, first of all,
is.
parents, they're not, they are here to do a lot of things, but judging is not one of them. Second of all, if you're having that experience of being judged by your parents, that first of all, know that your parents could do better. And second of all, your parents are people just like you. They are allowed to have wrong opinions or maybe controversial opinions. And they are humans. And maybe you can see it as maybe they are not perfect, but they have a lot of other things that can help me. And they do for me, so not everything is bad. And also try to open up about not what they're doing wrong, but how they are making you feel. And if you see like that makes a change, like you telling them how you feel about it, is the best thing you can do is say to them like, how do you feel about it? And if they're not actually understanding or caring about what you're saying, in that case, the best thing I can say is just leave them alone. be strong, try to find somebody who understands you, somebody who validates you, and just try to be yourself and try to be strong. And someday you either your parents will change or will die, or you don't have to talk about anything with them anymore. So yeah, just be strong.
Good.
Love
I
it.
think
Love the part that you said. I'm sorry.
no, you go. I'm sorry.
No, I love the part that you said, like, parents are not here for judging. And that's so true. I mean, because, yeah, maybe because our culture or the way that they were raised or things like that. And then it's like you said, it's really complicated, that topic. But I think so that you answered really with a lot of wisdom. So thank you.
Thank you.
He's an old soul.
But yeah,
Maybe,
I can see
maybe
that.
I'm just tired. Who knows?
Okay, Miss Carla, she has a question, right? Do you have a question, Miss Carla? Raise your hand if you have a question, guys.
Yeah.
uh, 47 years misses or misters, I don't know.
Lady.
And for me, it's really, really, really hard to understand many things that my kids, my child say me. And one of that blew my head was, well, if there is a costume party, and then I don't know, I I decided to dress maybe like a Hawaiian, or I don't know, a Japanese, or maybe and Spain, people from Spain. It's wrong. I'm not a
Mm,
Japanese, I'm not a Hawaiian, and I'm not in Spain. Maybe I have many uh, relatives far away, but I'm not a Spain. I'm Mexican. And in a costume party, it's wrong if I dress like that.
quick question, quick response. Yes, it is very wrong. It is
Yes.
very wrong. You cannot do it. But try to stay educated and just like don't do things out of your comfort zone. Just do stuff like you can, like it's publicly agreed that it's the right thing to do. For example, you can dress as a ghost or as a zombie or a mummy, something like that. Something that it's funny, something that people is going to understand. You don't have to dress as someone else or to be a stereotype of somebody else's culture that might make them feel very offended or at least misunderstood. Ta-da.
Oh.
That's my response.
Oh, that's a hard point of view for me. I don't know for anybody, because I think I'm the oldest in the group. Yes, I think. And
Yeah, you are like
I don't know. I
five
really
more than Georgie. I'm 3.
I don't know. I think, I really um, was the imagine in my mind of me like a open mind uh, person. But in this moment, I feel like, oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm a very old person in this moment, in this time. in this time of the history, and really it's hard to me to understand. Well, I have to educate me. I'm going to follow your advice, and I think it's a new age, and we have to educate us. Thank you.
You're
I feel
welcome.
you,
Thank you
sister.
for asking.
I feel you, sister.
Yeah, just do that. Educate yourself, even though you feel you can't. You can't. Just this is
Yeah,
complicated, but do it. It's
I
good for
want
you.
to I want to make a comment about what Miss Carla said, because nowadays you can find that some politicians are in troubles, in problems, because when they were young, they make blackface. Do you know what is a blackface?
No, let's not go there.
No, you don't know what is a blackface?
I get it.
No,
I
teacher,
get
I
it. I
don't
know
know
what
what
it
is.
Okay, when you paint your face in black or brown, imitating a black person or a Latin person or well, people from another race that is not yours, that's a blackface. So a lot of politicians have been in big troubles for a blackface, artists, politicians, etc. One of them was Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau,
Did
the
not.
president of Canada, when he was young, he went to a party and he was dressed as Aladdin, I think, and he made a blackface. So it was a big
Yeah,
scandal, but that was like years ago, right? Years
yeah.
ago. Now, um, that's the question for Georgie. For example, what do you think about that? What do you think about Justin Trudeau that happened? Like, what do you like? 20 years
First
ago?
of
Do you think it's fair for him? Like something
First
that
of all,
happened
I don't
years
really
ago?
like the guy. I don't think he's a good politician or a good prime minister of Canada. But I mean, I get his point of view. Like, he was young, he was stupid, he still is. That's not the point. But it's just like you cannot judge a person for something that they did when they were younger or when the political context was different. You can tell them they are wrong and they have to apologize because what they did is wrong, but you cannot hold it against them because it's just a different time right now. Of course, what they did is wrong, and you cannot forget it. We have to help them accountable of their actions, but once they apologize, you can say that it's fine, just don't do it again, and that's all.
And
Just
remember, guys, right now
be
that can
decent
destroy
and
you,
apologize.
right? A black face right now
Uh,
can destroy you. Don't do it.
if any of you was Melchor, erase the pictures. You know who you
Exactly.
were.
That's so true, Georgie. In Mexico, what is going to happen with the Reyes Magos in Mexico City? They are dressed as Melchor, right? How interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, guys, do you have more oh, Anna, question.
Hi, I have a question.
Hi.
Hi. Well, for example, if I go to another country and I wear the traditional clothing of that country because I think it is very beautiful, will that be wrong? Could it be cultural appropriation?
It wouldn't be wrong. It's a very gray area of this whole conversation because you're not doing anything wrong per se because you're just I guess it's fine because you're sort of buying their and you're sort of consuming their culture and you're like try to be respectful and of course you cannot actually dress like them like do a costume of them. For example, if you go to, let's say, maybe not Japan because it's very common to use kimonos as something touristic, but let's say Africa, you cannot dress like an African person, or like, for example, the Middle East. You cannot actually dress that way, but you can integrate parts of their clothing and their culture into your own culture because you're living there, you're experiencing the culture. But if you're outside, it's wrong. You shouldn't be doing it. But if you're in there, it's kind of okay. Just don't abuse too much about it.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think Miss Carla has another question, right? Did you raise your hand again?
Sorry,
No.
can you wait a second? My cat is really, I don't know what's happening to her.
Yeah,
Let
sure.
me watch
Don't worry.
her.
I can talk. I can talk a little bit about something that I was thinking. I was thinking about the pronouns. In Mexico, it's already like that, right? Like you have to call the person by the pronoun that he or she wants to be called, as a trans, right? A trans, if he or she wants to be called he or she, that you have to call them like that. And one extra
Yeah.
information is a friend who's living in the United States told me that right now the pronouns in English, or at least in the United States, are they are trying to disappear the pronouns.
Yeah, I get it.
So now they are going
Yeah.
to use like generic pronouns, maybe one, and one in plural.
Yeah.
How
I
interesting,
get
right?
it. It's kind of complicated in, for example, Latin-based languages because it's sort of like a huge part of the language is actually masculine or feminine pronouns and words. So it's very complicated to do it in Spanish or French or Italian or stuff like that. But for example, a language like English, that the use of like feminine or masculine words is sort of non-existent or very limited. It kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense because it's no longer necessary to say like for this is a male thing, this is a female thing. It's just like we don't care. It's just a thing. So that's fine. I guess it's just sort of complicated for us.
Yeah, kind of complicated, right? So, guys, do you have any questions? I mean, more questions? Miss Carla has the hand raised, but I don't know if she has more questions.
Sorry, teacher, I forget to down
Oh,
it.
okay, okay. So, Lily, do you have any questions? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here and I'm thinking perhaps I have so many questions, but I don't know how to put them. And I don't know if it would be correct to ask them, for example.
Do it, go for it.
Good.
Well,
Georgie's here for
Georgie,
that.
I'm
for
here
example,
for the drama.
you know, I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher too.
Yeah.
I teach in, how do you say this? In
University?
university, thank you. And as a teacher, many times I'm aware that, of many things that my students lack. For example, their lack of discipline, their lack of many attitudes that could make them improve in their time at school. And how can I tell them? Because it's a risky thing to tell the students that
Yeah.
they have to do some things. So in the view of the things you are saying, I don't know if I'm wrong, but I get the idea that I have to let them be. But as a teacher, I supposed to put
Yeah.
certain rules, and I'm supposed to tell them to do certain kind of
Yeah.
things, and that can be a little bit risky because you sometimes there are things that are not about, for example, math or physics or science. Sometimes it's, for example, the way they're taught to to their class, to
You?
the other people in the classroom, or the way they behave, or how they um, perhaps they are being and not how did I say this? They are doing things that are not politically correct. But if I tell them something, they can get angry. And I've been in that situation once, and it was a little risky for me.
Yeah,
And I managed to get out. But how can I behave like a teacher without getting in those risky situations?
yeah,
What
it's
will be your
risky.
advice?
Yeah. Well, in your case, you're in the right here because if someone is being, and forgive my language, an asshole, you are totally entitled to tell them they're being bad. And it's fine. You don't have to apologize for telling someone to be respectful or to be decent. It's just like you're telling them they're not being a nice person and they are not going to do well in the future if they keep that attitude. It's your job and it's a good thing to do, so don't feel ashamed of doing that. But of course, other people, most of the times when you tell people they're in the wrong or you approach them with a sort of like you're doing something bad, most people is going to feel very upset about it or they are going to deny it because it's a natural response of people. I feel attacked, I attack back, or I deflect. So what you can do is not is tell them and then like actually showing how they're making themselves sort of, you can tell them how do they, let me express it in a very metaphorical way. You can be like a mirror because if you show them how they look while they do that, how do they make other people feel like a mirror, just like showing them what they're doing and showing them why it's bad. Maybe people would understand it and approaching it more like a advice if it is not that bad. And if it is really bad, you're totally entitled to be more serious and maybe kind of rude, but it's not being rude, it's just being their teacher. Your job is to make them decent, basically. So
Okay.
you can do whatever you want when you just don't hit anybody and just don't offend everybody, and you're gonna be fine.
I'm gonna make my best of that. I don't know, but thank you very much, Georgie.
You're welcome, Lee.
Good. I think, Georgie, you have a friend, well, some friends here, but one of them is Monse, right? So, Monse, would you like to ask
Yeah.
something to Georgie?
No.
Oh, come on, ask
My cat
something.
again.
Aquí está la coca.
Okay, I think teacher Carla was taking some notes. Do you have, I have a lot of questions as usual, but I want you
Yeah.
guys to ask the questions. So,
Just go with them. if if people have questions, they should do it. But if they aren't doing it, do yours.
Yeah, I was thinking about the thing that you were saying about the pronouns. And also, I was reading, like, I don't know, a few months ago, that some people they didn't want it to register a baby because they didn't want it to call him or her.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about that? How can we raise babies without, I don't know,
Gender.
to tell them
gender.
he or she? A gender.
First of all, let's not be that radical. Like, it's okay to not have gender, but we have to put limits because even though we don't like them or we don't agree about them, gender is there as a social construct, and we have to live with it and make our peace with it. And we have to, it's very important for a person, first of all, identify themselves as something. And denying a baby of that something is very dangerous. So the most, if you want to raise someone as a gender fluid person, non-binary, you could put them a name that could be for a him or for a she, like just a name, for example, let's say, I don't know any examples of
Blue. No, no.
blue,
Yeah, blue. Blue is like
Lee,
for
blue,
girls,
something
for
like
boys.
that. Yeah, Cam, stuff like that, very non-genderish. Just like give them that name and raise them, just loving them and supporting them, and just if they feel like, and also they are going to be with other children, so they are going to notice how maybe girls use skirts and boys use pants, and they're going to tell you, I would like to use a skirt, or I would like to use more pants or more skirts. And that's the way that they can be in control and they can express themselves and not be so radical and like totally alienating them from society and from social structures. So let's not do that. Ta-da! My
Good. I
advice.
have an idea. We have a psychologist here. It's
We do.
Ale. So, Ale, I have a question for you according to George. Or maybe if you have a question for Georgie, it could be good. If you don't, I have a question for you.
Uh, I don't have a question. I can to think in a question, but I'm older than you, Georgie, but I always have been open-minded, and I'm agree with you and all your points. Uh, I think it's very interesting that you said that being a decent human is not like you don't deserve an award. It's like your duty, and I think it's important because all people need to be more like that, more like this, because I have family or friends that are from other generation that are very close mind, and they can understand to the new generation, but I think they don't have enough information to understand people. For example, what do you think that will be a good idea to say these kind of people that need to educate yourself?
It's
And how, right? Also, how? Like, where can you get this information?
older people, for the most part, I think they're crazy and complicated, just like a toddler. They're complicated and kind of weird, and they're very volatile. Some of them, of course, not everyone. I'm not doing that ageism stuff. That's not cool. But mostly people, older people, can feel very sorry. My cat is here and she's complaining, so sorry about it. But like older people have their opinions, and like most of them opinions are sort of part of their persona, that having an opinion that is part of your persona, very dangerous, and that shouldn't happen. But a lot of older people just feel that way because their whole lives have been living that way. So you have to at some point to understand them, that they are not going to be as quick or as intuitive about it, but you don't have to justify them because they're human beings and they have the ability to change and evolve. So if they are not like in the mood for it, they're bad, but it's just like not a cool thing. And how can they educate themselves? I don't have an answer really. because everyone has a different way of learning and comprehending stuff. And telling you, first of all, would be kind of arrogant to tell you, like, oh, I know how people should make their research. I don't know. I barely know how to do mine, but it works. So if you're interested in learning, just search about it in your own personal way. Try to research about it. Try to find groups of people that maybe will allow you to experience more of that so you can understand it. But if not, just try to research about it, try to surround yourself of different perspectives and ideas and concepts so you don't feel excluded from the outside narrative. So just surround yourself by different ideas and surround yourself with different people that are like challenge you to be a better and decent human being and not people that agree with your point of view because that might be dangerous. So just try to be with the other people and understand like the whole conversation. At least try to do it. Even if you can't totally do it, at some point you can. And that's the important thing. If you're trying, you're a human being and it's nice and it's very good. Keep trying. Just keep trying to be better. That's what I have to say.
Super, that's true. Okay, so guys, the time finished for the questions. Now, I just want to thank you, Georgie, for this talk. It was very interesting for us. Like, yeah, as I told you, all these differences between generations and everything has been a disaster for us. Like, we need to relearn and understand new things. So, thank you for being here. Thank you, Teacher Carla. Thank you, students, for being here and listening to us.
Hi everyone that I know or that I don't know. Thanks for watching and hearing and just being open about the conversation and paying attention to it because I think it's cool and more people should hear about it. That's all I have to say. Thank you, you all, for being here and supporting, for just being here because you have to be here because you're my teacher or something. Thank you, anyways.
It was our pleasure. Actually, I am really surprised with your accent, with your fluency. I mean, wow, you speak really good. And actually, I mean, you can express your ideas really, really good, really accurate. So, yeah, I was really engaged into your talk. So it was my pleasure and my students' pleasure to be here also. Thank you.
Thank you, students of Teacher Carla. It was a pleasure. And thank you, Teacher Carla, for being so nice about it. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, now we will have to say goodbye. Thank you for coming. Have a great night, guys. And see
Yeah,
you
have a
in
great
the
night.
next talk.
Weekend.
Okay?
See you, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.